I asked Joe in the morning, I don't know if you ever noticed, but between the meditation and the time the service starts, we've got some pretty cool music. That's because I asked Joe to play music that fires me up. Because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that power to come through me, that place where I can be that vessel through which it flows through me. It's just powerful. I am the first to tell you that I sing really badly. But you know what? I sing anyway. Because it's really powerful and it makes something happen within me. There's an intentionalness about that, bringing that forth. Like I said, it's very purposeful music that Joe is playing. Justin and David chose music that fits perfectly with our theme for the month, which is about willingness and purpose. I mean, willingness, fill me, God, shine through me. Those are both powerful statements of being a place that is allowing Spirit to transform life around us through us. And so it's a wonderful way that we can actually begin to enter in to that idea of being the vessel that Spirit moves through into expression here in the world. And so as I said, we are talking this month about willingness and purpose, and it's part of our year-long theme of the Mystic's Journey. And today we're going to talk about the power of intention. Like I said, we just spent a weekend together. There were 14 of us here for a women's retreat. So if the place feels a little bit vibrational and woo-woo for you, you're not going to know why. We did some really cool things here this weekend, culminating on Saturday with an amazing sound bath. So you might even feel some of that vibration moving around here throughout the space. But we always have an opportunity in our life to be intentional. You know, every year at the end of the year, I do an intention setting service for us to begin to bring into the new year what it is we want to experience in our life, how we want to be, how we want to show up, and how we want to allow Spirit to move through us. And so I personally find it very powerful to set intentions for myself and to move those into my experience throughout the year. I do this now because I spent so many of my years of my life being in a reactionary state of life, just responding to whatever's happening around me. And one of the people that I study often is Joel Goldsmith, and he often says that we're a pendulum, and that we are moving whichever way the wind is blowing. And so you can just imagine something out there in the wind, and if the wind blows this way, I go this way. If it blows that way, I go that way. And we're just a response instead of any kind of intentionality about it. It is just simply a reaction. So he says, this is from his book, The Foundation of Mysticism. As human beings, we exist very much as pendulums. Now, a pendulum hanging cannot of itself move to the right or the left. It must be acted upon before it will move. It has no control whatsoever. Anybody ever feel like that? Yeah. It must obey whatever energy moves it, swinging in whatever direction it's moved. I think currently in our world right now, we might have a little bit of that feeling of pendulum, that not everything is in our control, and that we are reacting to it. I know for me, I've had to put pretty tight controls on my social media intake right now, because I don't want to be responding to whatever it is that's showing up on there, because no matter what opinion you have about what's happening, there's something that's going to show up to disturb you. And it may not even be it may not even be on something intentional, like my friend Sonia and I were at breakfast earlier this week, and the people around us were very, very upset about the reaction of other countries to what was happening in our country here. And although it was quite contrary to our opinion, it was like, oh, wait a second, I don't even want to be in this energy, and there it is. And so I have a choice in every moment. How do I respond to that? Do I allow that to make me move in that direction? Or do I have an intentional purpose of staying centered and grounded all of the time in the truth? And so every moment we have that opportunity. We can either blow with the wind, or we can stay centered in what we know is true. And so this idea of intention. Intention, this is a definition here. Intention is a deliberate, conscious decision to act in alignment with our values rather than react impulsively. So instead of allowing ourselves to be that swinging pendulum, we can choose to respond to the way that aligns with what we feel is the truth of ourselves. We can choose to respond to it in a way that feels right and authentic for us, instead of as a reaction to what's happening around us. And so reactions are automatic. Oftentimes they are just a natural response. Sometimes it's our fight or flight response that has gotten triggered, and so we are reacting in that way because something has been, we've perceived it as so outrageous that we have to respond to it in a way that, like, either run away from it or face it head on and attack it. Intention is always a choice about how we behave with something. Reaction keeps us out of our ability to really choose. When we get, as my friend Sonia often says, our amygdala gets hijacked. Our amygdala is that old reptilian brain, and it gets hijacked by what's happening around us. We are just simply a reaction to the situation. And this can really begin to change how we perceive situations, how we are dealing with them. If we are in that reactionary state, then our responses are very different than if we are in an intentional state. An intentional state allows us to build a sense of emotional resilience so that we can be, as Jesus said, we can be in the world, but not of the world. We can be in the world, we can exist with what's going on around us, but we're not that pendulum that's moving with the waves. We can exist in a world where there is conflict and chaos and not take it into our own lives, and still be a place that is true and aligned with our values. So when we set a clear intention, it influences our brain patterns and our thought patterns. It actually starts that formation of new neural pathways in our brains. It actually changes our brain chemistry when we set an intention. When we are purposeful about how we're going to respond to things, it changes in our brain. We begin to view things differently when we are intentional about how we're living things. And so we can do this through lots of different things. We can set those intentions, and then we can keep them fresh in front of us. I love that quote from Howard Thurman. Keep fresh before me my moments of high resolve. Let me remember what my intention was. Let me see it. Let me have it present in front of me. You know, we made bracelets, which I forgot to wear today, at the beginning of the year with our word of power on there. You know, that is a way to keep it fresh before us. That's a way that we can remind ourselves. I have on my computer that I spend a lot of time working at, my intention is written out on a little card stuck to the bottom of my computer. It is in the front of every one of my journals that I use throughout the year. I keep my intention fresh before me so that I can remember that. I can remember those moments of high resolve. And so we can do this in lots of different ways. I have found, so today is the 40th day of the year. I just want you to keep that in mind. The 40th day of the year. So this is my intention for 2025. I am exploding with creativity in every area of my life. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about what's happened in the last 40 days. I did my first solo art show in Mexico. I published a new book. I'm halfway through writing the second book. I published an article on an online magazine called Divine CEO, which just came out today. I have written one class. I have another one started. I have created 17 new pieces of art. I have formed 2 new groups here at the center, and I have completed 5 rituals. That's in 40 days. I think I'm getting my intention pretty good. And you know what? It's just all coming through. It's just all this stuff just happening like crazy. I can't wait to see what the rest of the year looks like. I think I've already lost about 5 pounds with all of this energy, but you know, we're going with that. So when we can set an intention and we keep it fresh before us, it can dictate the formulation of our lives. It can dictate the way that we interact with other people. So now when I'm in situations and I'm, people are asking me for problem-solving tips and things like that, there is a creative flow that's happening here because my intention is to explode with creativity. And so I'm finding solutions to things that I might not have considered before. I'm finding ways of being and interacting with people that I might not have dealt with before. And so it's showing up in all kinds of ways. I love that. When you set intentions for ourselves, I don't have to constantly think about it. It's moving in me. And it's creating those new neural pathways that's allowing things to show up. And I'm like, kind of, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, wow, look at that. You know, that I never expected that thing to happen, but there it is. And so it's a wonderful way to actually begin to live our life there. There's a powerful book that I read years ago. It's called The Intention Experiment, and it's written by Lynn McTaggart, who is a researcher on the power of intention. And currently she has a fabulous peace intention experiment going on. I believe Judy was telling me it's like 30,000 people online participating in this. She's done wonderful work all over the world with her intention experiment. In the book, it talks about a situation in Sri Lanka where there were more suicide bombings in Sri Lanka that year than any place else in the country, in the world. And so there was a lot of civil war going on. And so they did this peace experiment to hold that in prayer, hold the intention of peace in that area in prayer. And I believe, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I believe it's about 150,000 people were engaged in an online experiment of sending the intention of peace into that area. Now what they found was at the beginning, there was an increase in the violence that was happening there. And then very quickly it started to dissipate. They think that the increase in the violence was that the people that wound up actually dissipating the peace had to do a little more action at the beginning to get the peace going. And so it was really quite interesting, but it's a very powerful process. And I was just looking on her website this morning, and she has a 40-minute video that's been produced in conjunction with the Gaia website that's free for you to watch. It's not available to be viewed in public, but you can go onto that website and watch this 40-minute documentary about the power of intention and how it can help bring about peace in the world. I think we can all use a little more peace right now. I don't know about anybody else, but that's what I'm feeling right now. No matter, as I said, no matter which side you think is the way it should be, right now we could all use a little more peace. And so she has done a total of 41 massive experiments with like tens of thousands of people. And out of those 41 experiments, 37 of them have positive results. And so there's something really powerful about this idea of setting intentions and allowing it to move through us. There is something really powerful within each one of us. And we always have that opportunity to open up a way for it to come through. Open out a way that we can allow Spirit to move through us. And even if it's me sitting in meditation and contemplation around an idea, then I can change the experience around me. I can change the experience for me, and I can change the experience around me. Joel Goldsmith tells a story in one of his books about a couple of students of his during World War II. They lived in downtown London during World War II. And they kept setting the intention of themselves that they were not going to be harmed during the war. And so they would say something like this mantra that I frequently use. It's, none of these things come nigh my dwelling place. None of these things can touch me. It comes from Proverbs, where the prophet is standing on a hill where there's a battle going on, and the people come running up to the prophet for help, and the prophet says to them, 1,000 may fall at my right hand, and 10,000 may fall at my left hand, but none of these things come nigh my dwelling place, because I don't dwell in this. I dwell in the house of the Lord. I dwell in a higher consciousness. I dwell in a higher realization of truth. I am not getting mired down in what's going on around me. And so this couple practiced this during World War II. And every house around them was destroyed by a bomb. And their house was never touched by any of the bombs. I think we can do some amazing things in our lives when we set that power of intention. When we realize this is not going to be my experience. I don't have to get mired down in what's going on around me. I can rise myself up in consciousness to that higher plane where I dwell in the house of the Lord, as opposed to being stuck in the realization of this has to be this way and it can't be any other way. That's a reaction to what's going on. Rising myself up in consciousness is an intentional place of being, and I think we can do that in almost every situation in our lives and really find great results with it. I love the way that Roman Marcus Aurelius put this. This is a fabulous quote here. It's time you realize that you have something in you more powerful and miraculous than the things that affect you and make you dance like a puppet. Just like that pendulum in the wind, if I'm responding to that, I might as well be a marionette with somebody pulling my strings, dancing me around the room. There is something very powerful within each one of us. There is a creative intelligence. There is a force of peace and love and generosity of spirit that resides right in the heart of each one of us. It is always there, and it is always looking for an outlet. So why not let yourself be that outlet? Why not let yourself be that place where God shows up, where you are that living, breathing example of spirit here on earth? That is a powerful intention that we can set for ourselves. And it is a way to be generous with ourselves. One of the things that I think we're most guilty of in our lives is being really hard on ourselves. There's that line from Michael Gott's song, and I say this a lot, I know I do because I love it. I'd never say to anyone the things I say in my own mind. Anybody experience that about themselves? I would never say to anybody things I say about myself. We are sometimes so difficult with ourselves. And this is a place for us to not only be intentional about what we're doing, but to be compassionate for ourselves. And so the compassion here, this little definition of it, is the ability to acknowledge suffering with a desire to ease it. There's something very intentional about being compassionate. The word compassionate itself, the C-O-M means with. Passion actually comes from an old Greek word meaning suffering. So to be with someone in their suffering, or to be with yourself in your suffering, is compassion. This idea of self-compassion plays a huge role in our ability to overcome any difficulty in our lives. If we can be a little more gentle with ourselves, then we have a place to release some of the things that have held us back, release some of our reactions to the situations around us, and be in a place of open-heartedness for ourselves. Compassion, it often gets misunderstood as a weakness. But in all actuality, compassion is a great strength. It takes strength of character, it takes an open heart, and it takes intention to be compassionate to ourselves and to others. I love the work of Kristen Neff, who's a researcher out of Austin, Texas. Oh, went too far. And she talks about tender versus fierce compassion. So tender compassion is something like what a mother would do with a child. So you can imagine holding a newborn baby. Imagine how you're holding that, and you're holding it up against your chest, and you've got your hands gently cradling it, yet very supportive. That tenderness that goes on. Karen Drucker has a wonderful song. It's called I'll Be Gentle with Myself. And she says, I will be gentle with myself. I will hold myself like a newborn baby child. I will love myself like a newborn baby child. There's something very tender about that, and that form of compassion can be very soothing and comforting, especially when people are in some kind of situation that has really been difficult for them to move through. Sometimes people need a little tenderness. They need to be held like that newborn baby child, whether it's physically or emotionally or spiritually. We always have that opportunity to hold them as that newborn baby child. When we can relate to ourselves with tender self-compassion, then we are able to care and nurture ourselves a little bit better. And we can certainly be softer with ourselves. Sometimes we need a little softness in our lives coming from ourselves. The other one is fierce self-compassion. So fierce self-compassion I describe as mama bear. Don't you mess with my cubs. Don't you mess with them. I will react strongly if you get anywhere near my cubs. That kind of compassion is also a palpable force for change. It takes a little bit more out of us to sometimes engage in that fierce self-compassion or fierce compassion because it's more overt. Tender self-compassion is more an inward process. But fierce self-compassion is, we've drawn the line in the sand and we're not letting anybody cross it. That is enough is enough. When we relate to ourselves with fierce self-compassion, we assert our autonomy and we assert our rights. And I think right now, especially, and I'm just going to say this, especially as women, we need some fierce self-compassion going on. We need to assert our rights in this world because if we do not, they will slowly be stripped away. And this is our opportunity every time. I am drawing the line in the sand and I am not going to let that be crossed because I am compassionate towards myself and I know what it is I need and I will not allow that to be taken away. So tender self-compassion allows us to accept discomfort and allows us to not be judgmental about ourselves. But fierce self-compassion propels us into action and to do what is needed to be done. Both of them are necessary and they need to be balanced out. We can neither be fierce all the time nor tender all the time. We need to have that interplay of the two to help us move through things. And when we move through our challenges now with intention, we are intentionally moving through our challenges, and we are showing compassion, whether it is tender compassion or fierce compassion, we begin to cultivate more of a sense of resilience. We are more wise about what's happening on. We're more wise about how we are reacting to things and how we are responding to them and why we are responding in that way. And we begin to develop a deeper connection to ourselves and to others around us. And that's what we're here for. We're here for that connection. We are here to build a community. We are here to connect with people in lots of different ways. Human beings are not meant to live in isolation. That is just not the way that our species was designed to exist in the world. From the very beginning of time, we have been in communities where we have been dependent upon each other. And so there are lots of ways that we can begin to build intention and practice self-compassion at the same time. And so here's some practical steps for that. Practical steps to use and build intention, especially when times are troubling and challenging. So the first thing we need to do always is to pause and to become mindful about what's going on. Mindfulness, remember, is awareness, attention to what it is, and then non-reaction. We do not react to that, and that way we can stay in that mindful state. It's like, okay, what's happening here? What am I experiencing here? Why is this challenging to me? And come to it from that place of, it is what it is. I don't have to respond to it. I don't have to be the pendulum swinging in the wind. I can just be aware and reflect upon that. And then set an intention based on your values. If you value love, set an intention for love. If you value peace, set an intention for peace. Make sure that what you are setting your intention for doing is in alignment with how you feel inside. Because intentions that are set that are out of misaligned with what we believe, they cause dissonance within us, and it just stirs things up in a way that isn't productive. But when we're aligned with our values, then we can move forward in that productive way that we can actually show up in that moment. And so figure out what it is you stand for. Figure out what it is that's important to you. Figure out what it is where you want to show up and be that force of fierce compassion or that force of intentionality. And then take aligned action. Here in Centers for Spiritual Living, we have a really cute phrase that we often use. We say it a lot, but I'm not really sure how often we follow it. You know, one of those things? You may have heard it before. It's treat and move your feet. Treat is our way of praying. We do spiritual mind treatment. And prayer is powerful. Prayer is amazing. But if you don't do anything with it, it just is. It just sits there. There's no place for it to show up in the world. So we have to actually take action. Had I set that intention that I set for myself to have explosive creativity in my life and then just sat there and twiddled my thumbs, I wouldn't have accomplished those things that I did in 40 days. We have to take action. Sometimes we wait for that action to be, we think, oh, okay, I'm going to sit and wait until Spirit tells me what to do. And, you know, I think I said this a couple of weeks ago about the guy who's in the flood and waiting for Spirit to save him. And, you know, somebody knocks at the door to rescue him, and he says, oh, no, I'm waiting for God. And somebody comes up in a rowboat, and he says, oh, no, I'm good. I'm waiting for God. And then he's on the roof, and the helicopter comes and lowers the ladder down to him. And he says, no, I got this. And then he goes to heaven and says, hey, God, why didn't you help me? I was waiting for you. And God said, I showed up 3 times. You know, we have to find that way of actually taking action when we need to take action. Don't just wait for Spirit to guide you to do it. Listen to that inner voice. Listen to your intuition. Listen to your gut. Look for that place where you can be fierce compassion. Look at that place where you need a little more tenderness for yourself. And do those things. Bring that into your world. We cannot help anyone else until we've helped ourselves. You know, it's that whole airplane thing. Put the mask on yourself before you help the little children with you. You got to take care of yourself before you can be a place for anyone else. And so take action for that. And practice self-compassion. Treat yourself like you would treat your dearest friend. Treat yourself like you would treat a newborn baby child. Be compassionate to yourself. Show the same kindness that you would to anyone else. And then, of course, our last one is find the spiritual practices that work for you. Mindfulness is one of the big ones that we're working on this year. Mindful meditation, being aware, being attentive, being in the present moment and not reacting to what comes up for you are the basis of mindfulness. Journaling. Journaling is a powerful way to get clear about what's happening for you in that time. The simplest one we can do is to breathe. Just breathe and allow that breath to move through us. And when I say just breathe, I don't mean that in some flippant kind of pacifying way. Take the breath in. Feel the breath in your body. Know that you are connected to this body, to this earth, to this air around us, to the Spirit moving through us. Think of God as the breath as moving in and out of your body. Find those ways to be intentional and compassionate to ourselves. And then finally, setting a clear intention influences our thought patterns, our chemistry, our health, and it also influences the external situations around us. Again, visualization, belief, collective focus, as in Lynn McTaggart's work, the collective focus. Intention directs energy, and it shapes our perceptions, and it aligns us with the outcomes that we seek. So are we seeking a more peaceful world to live in? Are we seeking a more generosity towards each other? Are we seeking to become the highest and best example of Spirit here on earth? What is your intention? When you came in, you were given a little heart. Everybody got their little heart? I got a big one. Big heart. I figured if I stand up here and hold that little heart, nobody's going to see it. So I had to buy a little heart. This is rose quartz. Rose quartz is our crystal of the month. If you didn't get a heart, raise your hand, and I'll have our ushers bring you one. Because we need a heart. Everybody needs a heart in their hands for this moment. As I said, I like to do rituals. I like to do experientials. I like to give us practical tools. And so this heart is a practical tool to remind you about intention and compassion. So I want you to just take a moment and close your eyes. I've talked a lot about intention and compassion this morning. As you think about the challenges that are happening in the world right now, as you think about situations in your own life, begin to bring to mind that one intention that you can set right here and right now. It doesn't have to be the biggest intention. It doesn't have to encompass everything. But what is one intention that is calling to you right now? Maybe it's an intention of love or peace. Maybe it is a little more self-compassion. Or maybe it's a direction to more action around something you've been putting off. Maybe it's a challenge that you're having with other people in your lives that you'd like to resolve. I want you to hold your heart near your mouth and whisper into the heart that intention that you would like to hold for the next week or so. And just go ahead and do that now. Take in another breath. Just let that out. If you have a pocket, put your heart in your pocket where you can reach into and find it. Or any place on your body that you might want to put it. I don't care. Your purse. I even had some people put them in their shoes. Now, as you move about this week, anytime you get into any kind of situation that causes you any distress whatsoever, even if it just makes you question what's going on, find your heart and remember your intention. It's a great way to keep it with you, to keep it fresh before you. Keep fresh before me my moments of high resolve, so that you can remember that as we go about our day. So let's take this into prayer. I invite our practitioners to stand, surround us. These beloved individuals spend a minimum of 4 years studying, practicing, developing consciousness to know truth in difficult situations. If you find yourself in a challenging situation, I invite you to set up an appointment with one of them for a spiritual counseling session where they can help you remember the truth for yourself. So I just simply invite you to turn within right now to this time and this place, this moment of deep connection. And so right here and right now, I know that there is only one power, one presence, one divine, creative love intelligence that has brought forth everything into existence. I know this one as love, as wisdom, as peace, as harmony. I know this one is in and through and as all creation. I know it is the very heart that is beating within each one of our chests. It is the breath that we breathe. It is the air that surrounds us. For I know that there is nothing that exists outside of this one. And because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it. I know that the power and the presence of that creative love resides right at the heart of my being. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone. For we are all that unique and perfect emanation of a love so powerful, it could do nothing else but create more and more and more of itself. And so knowing this truth, I speak my word right now. I know that each one of us is a vessel of transformation. I know that each one of us is empowered to be that place of intentional living, that place of infinite compassion, that place of peace and harmony and balance. I know that there is a wisdom that resides within each and every person here that is pouring itself forth in the right and perfect way in every situation. For I know that it could be no other way. For this love intelligence is moving itself into expression in our experiences right here and right now. And I just give great thanks for knowing this. I'm so passionate to feel it moving through me. I am so amazed at the way it is showing up, and I am just so, so grateful. And I release this word into the law, into that creative mind that always says yes, that knows no limitation. I let it go, and I let it be, and together we say, and so it is.